Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph, right after the Mishnah, the beginning is Gemara. Ton Rabban Halacha Zu Nisalma B'nei B'ser. The following halacha was forgotten from the B'nei B'ser. Pam Achaz Chal Arba Asarliyas B'Shabbos. One time, the 14th of Nisan fell out on Shabbos. Erev Pesach fell out on Shabbos, and Shalchu V'lo Yadu in Pesach Deich Shabbos Imla. And they didn't know is the Korban Pesach is a Deich Shabbos or not. So Ben Beseira, they at one point or another, one of them were the Nesiim. There at different times, different one of the Bnei Beseira were Nesiim. They were the leaders of Klal Yisrael, and the Psak Halacha came from them, and they forgot this fundamental halacha. Of course, the Pella, how they can forget it. Yerushalmi says there was min shamayim that it happened. They should forget it so that the following should take place, which we'll see shortly. The Muri says is that they knew the halacha, but they didn't know the makor. So Al Kopanim Amru, they said Klum yesh Adam Shiyadei Pesach Deich Shabbos Imlav. So they asked, does anybody know the halacha? Is it Deich or not? Amru Lahem, they said Adam Echad Yesh Olam Bavel. There's a certain person who came from Bavel. V'Hillel Abavli Shmoi. His name is Hillel Abavli. Sheshimesh Nei Gedolei Hador. He was a Talmud. He served to Gedolei Hador Shmai Vavtalia. V'Yodei in Pesach Deich Shabbos Imlav. And he knows the halacha. Shalcha v'Karolai, they called him Amrulai Klum Ata Yodei in Pesach Deich Shabbos Imlav. They asked him, do you know the halacha? Is it Deich Shabbos or not? Amrulahem V'Chi Pesach Echad Yesh Lana v'Shabbos Deich Shabbos. There's only one Pesach that is Deich Shabbos. Harbe Yeser Mimasayim Pesachim Yesh Lana v'Shanash Deich Shabbos. There's more than 200 that are Deich Shabbos. There's more than 200. What's a pshat? What's a cheshbon? Meaning, you have every Shabbos, you have the korban tamid. There's two korbanos. One in the morning, the tamid shad, tamid shel ben arbaim. Plus you have two musafim. That's 4 korbanos every Shabbos. Then 50 Shabbosim, there's 200. Plus on Yontiv, you also have the musafim of Yontiv. So therefore, you have all of these cases. Regularly during the year, these korbanos are Deich Shabbos. They're also like Pesach. They're called Pesach. They're called Pesach because the Mary says is because they come. They're sheep. They're kvasim. They're sheep that are used for these korbanos. So he says that we see from the korbanos of Shabbos during the year, these korbanos are Deich Shabbos. So you can learn that from the Talmud. That's Deich Shabbos here also. Amruloi, they said to Minaylacha, how do you know this? Amralam, Nemer Mayad Pesach. It says the word Mayadai Pesach. It says Mayadai, and it says also, Mayadai Betamid, the Nemer Mayad Betamid. And it also says by the Tamid, by the Korban Tamid, it says that Mayad. It says, as Korbani Lachmi Elishai, it says Lachli B'Mayadai. It says in both cases Mayad. So therefore, we just like we say, Mo'adam or B'Tamid Deich Shabbos, just like by the Tamid. We say it's Deich the Shabbos, Av Mo'adam or Pesach Deich Shabbos. So we have the Gzera Shava, and we can teach us the Gzera Shava that is Deich Shabbos. V'Oid, says in addition, there's a Kal V'Chaymer. There's Oid Kal V'Chaymer. In addition to that, there's a Kal V'Chaymer. Ma Talmid Shein Onish Karas. The Talmud is Kal. There's no punishment for Karas for not doing it. Deich Shabbos, Pesach, Shanosh, Karas, Pesach. That there is, it's so severe that there's a punishment of Karas. In addition to Deich Shabbos, certainly it should be Deich Shabbos. So, in addition to the Gzera Shava, the Pesach, it says that V'Yasav and Israel Pesach b'Mayadai, that they did the Pesach b'Mayadai. It says Mayad. It says Mayad b'Tamid. You also have a Kal V'Chaymer. Miyad Hayshivu b'Rosh Minu Nasi Alam. So they saw that he was a bigger Talmud Chacham, and therefore they appointed him to be the Nasi. The Rosh was medayik from here that if we see that someone is greater, the greatest Talmud Chacham should be the Nasi. If we see that somebody is a greater Talmud Chacham, he should be the one that is appointed the Nasi, even if he has to replace an existing one. So Miyad Shiva Rosh Minu Nasi Aleim. Vayadarish kol yom kula b'hilchos Pesach, and he darshan the whole day in hilchos Pesach. Hikna Hizkel mekantrim b'dvorim, and then he started to give the Bnei Masera, started to give them Musar. He is mekantrim b'dvorim. He spoke sharp words to them. Amar lahem, mi garam lachem. What caused you? She'ela mi bavag ve'eya nasi aleichem. What was the reason? What was the cause that I should come from Bavel and you were the Nesim, and now I should be the Nasi over you? What was the reason? Atzlus shoyse b'chem. It was your laziness. Shloi shimashim shnei gdei ledar shmai v'avtalin. That you didn't serve the two gdei ledar shmai v'avtalin. They said to him, they asked him a kasha. Rabbi Shakach v'lo yivisaken mirav Shabbos mount. What's the din? If they didn't bring the knife from before Shabbos, now it's Shabbos and it's Yud Daled, and what can they do? If they don't have a knife, they can't shach the Korban Pesach. So if they don't shach v'lo yivisaken mirav Shabbos mount, what's the din? Amar lahem halachazu shemantiv shachachti. He says, I heard it, but I forgot. So it was kilo a punishment mishamayim, that even though Hillel was l'shem shemayim that he gave them Musar, but he was punished for their p'chisas hakoven. He said, but I forgot. Ella hanach lehem l'Yisrael, leave them to their own, and im ein neviim heim b'nei neviim heim, even if they may not be neviim, but they're the descendants of neviim, and they'll figure it out, and they'll know what to do instinctively. They'll know what to do. L'machar, the next day, what happened was one who was his korban pesach, the animal was a sheep. He stuck the knife into his wool, and they didn't carry the knife. The sheep carried it. If it was a goat, between its horns. So then that's the way they did it, that the animals carried it. So Rashi asks, but Shvisas Behemta is also Deraisa. How can they have the animals transported? He says over here, since these animals don't normally transport things, this is considered that it's a different Kalachayad, it's a Shinoi, and there's no Deraisa over here. So that's how they brought the knives. So Hill saw the Meiser and he reminded himself of the halacha v'homer kach mekublan mipish mayim v'avtalya. So that's correct. That's the tradition I have from Shmai v'avtalya. So now going back to his limud to teach us that Pesach is Deicha Shabbos. Omer ma nemer moeda b'Pesach and nemer moeda b'Tomid. It says moeda in both cases. Ma moeda ha'omer b'Tomid Deicha Shabbos, av moeda ha'omer Pesach Deicha Shabbos. Frek the Gemara b'Tomid gufa minolan Deicha Shabbos. Fine, it's Exer Shabbos, but how do we know that the Talmud itself is Deicha Shabbos? Maybe you'll say because it says b'moyadai, and b'moyad means at its time, it's a point of time, even with Shabbos, Pesach Nami, Aksi b'moyadai. So what do you need Exer Shabbos? The Pesach it also says moyadai, so you wouldn't need Exer Shabbos, it would mean moyadai, fil b'Shabbos. Ella moyadai loy mashmalei. So therefore, it must be that moyadai, it doesn't mean it's a point of time, moyadai, even if it's Shabbos. So here the same thing. So what do you know? What do you know more from the case of Tomid than that you know that you don't know by Pesach? What can you learn out from Tomid that you don't know already by Pesach? Now Tosfos points out that this is a Hillel, but there are Tanoim that hold not like that. That Moyadai means that the word moyadai means that it is afilu b'Shabbos, and you don't need Exer Shabbos. Yitaka don't need Exer Shabbos. It says moyad Pesach, it says moyad b'Tovin, moyadai, and it's a point of time, even if it's Shabbos. Al Kaponim, he holds that it doesn't mean that. Elo, so how do I know that the Talmud is Deicha Shabbos, and therefore I learn Exer Shabbos to Pesach? Elo, Omer Kro, Oilas Shabbos b'Shabbata al Oilas HaTalmud. It says you're makar the oil of Shabbos on Shabbos besides the oil of the Talmud. Mechlal, oil of the Talmud Akrev Shabbos. This is in addition to the oil of Talmud. So that teaches you that the Talmud you're makar on Shabbos. Therefore you learn Exer Shabbos to Pesach. Amar Mar v'oid kal v'chaymer. In addition, there's a kal v'chaymer. Uma Talmid Sheinanush Chorus Deichas Shabbos. Madach the Talmid is Kal. There's no chorus of Deichas Shabbos. Pesach Shanush Chorus Ein Hadin Shedeichas Shabbos. So Pesach Kal v'Chaymer should be Deichas Shabbos. But Ikol Mivrach, you can ask on this. Mal the Talmid Shekain Toder v'Kol. But the Talmid has chumras. The Talmid is Todir. It comes regularly, not just once a year. It comes every Shabbos. And it's kolel, and it's consumed completely. And the Pesach is not kolel. So something that's burnt completely on the Mizbeach is kula kaidash. And therefore, it has these chumras. It's the Talmid is Todir, and it's kolel, and the Korban Pesach is not. So you have a kasha. The Sasema says, you have another kasha, that the Talmid is kachei kach. Pesach is kachim kali. So that shows you that the Talmid is more chomer. So the answer is that perhaps it's nichlal in what we say that it's kolel. The fact that it's kolel shows you that it's kachei kach. So l'chera the kal v'chaymer you have a kasha. So Gemara says, Ein Chanami. Kal v'chaymer amr l'bereishu brachu. First he said the kal v'chaymer, and they asked on it. They shlugged it up. V'hadar amr l'gzer shava. And then he told them the gzer shava. Ein Chanami, the kal v'chaymer is not viable. First he told them the kal v'chaymer they asked, and then he said the gzer shava. So, the Gemara v'chimach, the Gemara gzer shava, if there's a gzer shava, kal v'chaymer lamali, why did he even bother with the kal v'chaymer? So Gemara explains as follows. He means to say, according to you, now, Gzer Shava, you have to have a Kabbalah for Gzer Shava. You have to get it, the tradition, a Kabbalah from your Rebbe. So he says, Bishlama, even if you didn't have the Kabbalah of the Gzer Shava, you can't dine it on your own, so therefore you wouldn't have known it, but but a Kal V'chaymer you could learn on your own. You could done it on yourself. So why didn't you apply this Kal V'chaymer? Amar le Kal V'chaymer pricho. But there's a kasha on it.